Yo, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Toby D. You know what it is, faith football fans. Well, all right, here it is, y'all. Week 6. Can you believe it's already up here? I remember tweeting about this game in the offseason that I said this is definitely one of the games between the Seahawks and Falcons that I was going to circle on my schedule sheet. It should be a fun game. And man, guys, relatively, our Falcons is going into this game very healthy for the most part. Of course, this time of year, you got a lot of guys banged up, nicked up, or what have you. Hey, but they're ready to go in. They stayed out west. Of course, everyone knows that. And of course, they had to practice in a little rain this week. Now, of course, the word is Sunday, and I've been looking all over trying to find out what things are going to really look like with the weather conditions. The word is it is supposed to rain in Seattle on Sunday, preferably mostly during this game, and 80% at that. But now some of the reports I read is especially on the fantasy sites, when you trying to see how your team going to look in the fantasy leagues, they have a little weather report saying it's going to be light rain. Which is cool because the Falcons have played in light rain before, and a lot of people seem to forget. They call the Falcons a dome team. The Falcons play outside when they practice all the time, except that when there's storms or whatnot, they are unable to do that. They have to practice inside, which they did have to do on the last day, I believe, of practice this week because the rain has been a little heavy out there in Seattle when they stayed out there. But I think these guys are going to be ready to go. This is a key matchup, and I think really this game right here holds a lot of weight because I believe both of these teams will meet again in the playoffs. And I think the divisional round, I think Seattle is still strong enough to get to the divisional round, and I think the Falcons will get to that divisional round as well. I think the Falcons will have to go on the road. I had the Falcons going 10-6, 11-5 before the season started, and I'm definitely sticking with that now after such a hot start. I do not believe they're going to melt down like they did last year. They were not the same team last season because they're finally believing in what Dan Quinn is preaching to them, and it's showing on the field. So I believe that both of these teams are going to meet again, and this game to me determines who's playing in whose house whenever they do meet. And it could be the NFC Championship game. Who knows? But this offense the Falcons have is unlike any offense you ever seen. No disrespect to KJ Wright and no disrespect to Bobby Wagner, but they're going to have their hands full dealing with Tevin Coleman and Devontae Freeman. Ladies and gentlemen, these guys are actually running routes. This is not just running to be running. These guys are actually being taught, and they seem to be understanding route combinations, what to do when they are next to another receiver, and what route to run to get into the best position to catch the ball when they see another receiver and how he's being attacked. And this is for real. I mean, you got Devontae Freeman running pivot routes, and a lot of people that know about Wes Welker, he made a living doing that. Basically seeing what a team is doing to the X receiver, taking on that linebacker, going in and looping his way back out for a nice gain. And Devontae Freeman is running those guys. You see Tevin Coleman seeing the holes in the defense and getting to the spot quickly. And with Seattle playing a lot of zone, 3-deep zone, there's going to be a lot of space in there where the Falcons can make a living. And they're going to really test the Seattle Seahawks tackling ability. Now, we know the Seattle Seahawks really pride themselves on tackling and their technique. And to have the Falcons going in, executing at a high level. Now, the defense still has some work to do to show consistently like the Falcons offense has been doing. But still, you have to be pleased with what you saw in week 5, especially out of Vic Beasley. And it looks like things are finally translating into the NFL. And, hey, give Dwight Freeney some credit, man, because he's really been helping Vic Beasley and his pass rush showing these guys how to really study their opponent in front of them and being able to maximize with technique and a relentless nature on how to get to that quarterback. And I believe Russell Wilson is going to be running for his life, man. This dude is not all the way healthy. A lot of people would like to believe that he's healthy and think that maybe a guy on one leg is better than a 28th, 29th ranked Falcons defense. But you might be surprised. That ankle is going to probably be tested on Mr. Russell Wilson. And if you look at the Falcons cornerbacks right now, they're not really giving up 100-yard receivers. Even Robert Alford, with all the penalties that he amasses at times, they're not giving up 100-yard receivers like that. Now, we still got some work to do with tight ends and the running backs. But the good news is Deion Jones and Devondre Campbell will be back out there. Now, how extensive they are going to be out there on the field will remain to be in question. I'm sure Dan is going to want to see how they're looking as they get back into the game. And if they're looking good, they'll continue to stay out there and play just like he did Keanu Neal when he made his debut against the New Orleans Saints. And as he looked good, they left him out there and he played more snaps than they projected that he would play because he looked good in doing it and he had no setbacks doing it. Now, of course, this will be a test for both ankles of Devondre Campbell, who is coming off a high ankle sprain. And I'm just going to say, I guess Deion Jones had a little mild ankle sprain, which is not as bad as a high ankle. This is going to be a test because it's going to be wet out there on the field for them. But you're not going to really know how they are until they get into the game situations. So we'll see how it goes. And word is also, I found out by RotoWorld, Cam Chancellor went down with a groin injury in practice on Thursday. Now that is huge because he is one of the biggest backbones of this defense. And if he can't go, that's going to be something interesting because now remember, when Cam Chancellor had held out because he wanted a bigger contract, watching other guys getting paid and he wasn't getting paid, the Seattle Seahawks defense struggled those first few games last season when he wasn't there. So if he's not out there and facing an offense, which linebacker KJ Wright had given much props to, saying that this offense is even better than the Denver offense that they faced in the Super Bowl. Now that's high praise. And part of that high praise is because you got two running backs that can run in pass routes and understand what they're doing. So this is not going to be an easy task for the defense. Now, I know that they've been very stingy in the run game, but I honestly think the Falcons can run on them. And the reason why I think that is because not just the lineman works in this run game. Everybody pitches in, from wide receivers, and Cam Chancellor noted as such. Everyone pitches in blocking. And we're going to win the numbers game, even with the 8 that they like to put down in the box, which is what we like to do too because we run a similar defense. But there are some nuances in it that Pete Carroll admitted that Dan Quinn does that they don't really do. But we'll see how the game plan really goes defensively. They may throw Russell Wilson off. They may have a plan that they've worked on to throw Russell Wilson off that they worked on during the offseason that we don't even know about. So Russell Wilson is going to have to be careful. And Dan Quinn is known to do that. He will throw some stuff in there from middle school. And you wouldn't even know it until the game starts because he's creative like that on defense. He did a lot of that stuff when he was with Seattle. And probably Seattle, no disrespect to the defensive coordinator, Chris Richard. But this is probably a time when Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas and Richard Sherman and Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright wish they had Dan Quinn for a moment such as this. Because how creative Dan Quinn was on defense with the things that he likes to do. And stuff that he could throw in there that you wouldn't probably even think of, that he could pull from a game tape from a high school team or something that you didn't scout. So it's going to be a good game, man. I can't wait to see it. I think the matchup is between Richard Sherman and Julio Jones. Richard Sherman It sounds like the Falcons might try to do something similar to what they did in the playoff game and go after Richard Sherman deep and really test his deep ball skills. Now we've seen Richard Sherman pick balls off when balls have been underthrown to a receiver. But Matt has been hitting guys when he's been throwing the ball. The other thing is, you notice about Richard Sherman is he tries to use his size and his length to really dictate the receiver. He puts his hands on you. But see, the thing is, Julio Jones is one of the greatest at fighting your hands off. And what Julio does is he distracts you with his footwork first, and then when you try to put your hands on him to jam him, he gonna knock that stuff away. So this is gonna be a hard fought fight between two greats in the cornerback Richard Sherman and Julio Jones. You might see a lot of yellow flags coming out on both these players because both are very feisty with their hand movement. They like to use their hands, and they do like to occasionally push you off. We saw Julio Jones try to get away with one on Chris Harris last week. Of course, it was too obvious, and the refs caught it and called them on it. A nice play too, by the way. But hey, it is what it is, man. This is going to be a serious fight right here. Dan Quinn has used a lot of analogies about boxers, and this is definitely going to be a heavyweight boxing match that I'm excited to see. And I believe it's going to be. I truly believe the Falcons are going to edge this one out. I don't think they're going to win by much, but I think they're going to be able to run the ball. They don't have to be able to run it much. If they can do like they did with Carolina, just run it enough to keep you honest, because you know Seattle has to respect the run. They can't not respect it. They're gonna have to respect it. And I know that Chris Richard was saying that they're looking for key indicators to help them to where they don't fall so much into the play action that the Falcons like to do and also have success in. But I think that's going to be very hard to do because the stuff that this team does and the way that Kyle's been calling games, it's making it hard. And even Pete Carroll mentioned it and admitted it himself. Because of these running backs, it's making it hard for teams to zero in on exactly what the Falcons like to do because of the versatility of the backs, Devontae Freeman and Tevin Coleman. And you heard Akeem Talib say it best. These are two of the best out there. And if people wanted to try that same thing on them because it's a copycat league, they don't have a Tevin Coleman or Devontae Freeman. Even Von Miller admitted as such. Chris Harris as well. So this is going to be a great matchup. I expect these running backs to still be active, even with some slight rain coming into this game. We played in some slight rain up there in Seattle before, and Matt Ryan has come out both times on Pete Carroll with wins. The one in 2011 was very close. I think 30-28, and that could be the case again this time. Or it may not be. But we'll see how it goes. But that's all I wanted to say on that, man. Please comment, subscribe. Again, this is Faith Football Fans, Toby D. Peace. I'm gone.